Hey guys, welcome to This Week in MMA. I'm Nick Antonov.
And I'm Patrick John Joseph.
And we got a couple of exciting topics to talk to you about. First, let's talk about Brock Lesnar, the big guy, the vanilla gorilla going down. Speculations were running wild in the beginning. First it was swine flu, then it was mono, then it was a bacterial infection. Now we find out he has a hole in his intestines.
It's absolutely disgusting because you think about it. He has a hole in his intestines leaking into his stomach. It kind of makes sense why he's always in such a bad mood because he always looks angry. He's always kicking stuff down in his house for no reason. It makes sense now.
Yeah, Brock is never in a good mood. And then Dana White even said he went through minor surgery and is now recovering. Dana White said, Brock is never in a good mood, and especially now. So, that's a kind of a testament to his character.
Yeah.
I really hope the big guy makes a recovery because it's unfortunate that he went down. The UFC heavyweight division was just starting to pick up. It just started to get some depth, and bam, the heavyweight champ goes down. Nogueira is also out. Carwin's out. Second and third guy, arguably, So not only is he going to be out for at least 6 months, we're not even sure if he's ever going to come back to fight again. I mean, I hope so. 2009, as good as it's been for the UFC, with UFC 100 doing 1.6 million buys, they've had 4 out of their 5 champions come down with serious injuries.
But their pay-per-view main events are still remain strong because they have a good way of having a strong brand where people are paying to see UFC because they know you're going to get to see good fights. That holds true with UFC 106, originally supposed to be headlined by Brock Lesnar. Instead, the fans are getting Tito Ortiz versus Forrest Griffin.
Yeah, part 2. And you know what? The first time those two guys got together, it was an absolute brawl. By the end of that fight, not a single fan was in a seat. At home or in the arena. The last time they fought, Tito Ortiz kind of dominated the first round, but then Forrest Griffin really started to gain some confidence, and second round was very close, and third round, Forrest was teeing off. So I look forward to more of the same this time around.
Tito definitely lucked out in winning that first fight. And I think when you compare Forrest Griffin now to the one Tito Ortiz fought in that first fight, completely improved fighter on every level.
Tito's coming back off of some major back surgery. He has to have metal plates inserted into his spine. The image is just incredible. And, he's been away from fighting for a year and a half.
Yes.
His cardio is not going to be the same. Originally, he was supposed to fight Mark Coleman in this event, which was a great tune-up fight for Tito. Unfortunately, Forrest Griffin is not a tune-up fight. This is a main event.
I think the key thing for this matchup is not only Tito Ortiz's cardio and where he's at physically, it's also where Forrest Griffin is going to be at mentally. He seems like he's motivated to get back in the cage and kind of redeem himself. He lost his last 2 fights. This is a pay-per-view main event fight. He can't afford to lose another one.
Yeah, and you know what? Speaking to how bad Forrest wants to get back into the octagon, he recently got married and was supposed to go on a honeymoon. And
I feel bad for his wife. How are you just gonna cut your honeymoon off? You know how expensive that is. Fight Tito Ortiz.
I think if you marry a guy like Forrest Griffin, I think that comes with the territory. If a woman decided to marry him, sometimes there's gonna be a little wacky things going on in this marriage.
But you can't take anything away from his skill inside the octagon. He's a solid fighter all around. I don't believe Tito Ortiz can hang with him for 3 rounds.
Yeah, I think Forrest, he's coming back because he has something to prove. For this fight, I think I'm going to pick Forrest by unanimous decision. And another interesting fight coming up, UFC 106, is actually Anthony Rumble Johnson against Josh Koscheck.
The thing is, about the Kaz, he's an all-American wrestler, but he doesn't wrestle. So it's kind of backwards. What he needs to do to win this fight is he needs to stick to that all-American wrestling. He's great on the ground. He needs to do that in order to win. Lately, he's been trying to stand up with people. It's been kind of going good for him, but not his last fight didn't really go that well for him.
Well, yeah, I think you're referring to his fight against Thiago Alves.
That's what it was.
If he tries to stand with Rumble, I think we're going to see more of the same. Anthony Johnson is just a massive welterweight. This guy, walks around at 210, 215 pounds and cuts down to 170 pounds. If you saw him in his last fight against Yoshida, he was a mammoth. And the fight ended in 41 seconds simply because bam, bam, bam.
He's called Rumble for a reason, you know? And I think Kaz he has to realize this. you cannot stand up with this guy. The only possible way he can win is on the ground, and I don't think he's going to do that. I'm going with Anthony Johnson in this second round knockout.
I agree with you 100%. I think he's going to want to try to test the stand-up, and we are going to see a highlight knockout, but unfortunately it's going to be going on Anthony Johnson's highlight reel. 106 is the fourth major card in November. First, we saw Strikeforce put on a great card on CBS. We get to see Fedor Emelianenko for the first time on network television. Then we got to see UFC 105. The main event was a little lackluster, but overall, the fights were close, the fights were exciting. Then we got to see WEC 44, with the smaller guys banging. And they always put on a great show. And now getting UFC 106. So that's 4 major cards in 1 month. And I honestly feel like that's just a little preview of what we're going to see in 2010.
All the top promotions are upping the number of events they're doing. UFC is going to do 16 major events, and you also have Strikeforce upping their events, and they have a pretty strong roster. You got to give them some credit.
Absolutely. And rumors are going about with UFC trying to merge with WEC, which I think is a great move, especially if they're planning to do so many shows. I've heard UFC is actually going to plan to do 36 shows in total, three a month. That includes, of course, Fight Night and cards like that. That's just an astounding number. Strikeforce is saying they're looking to do 18 to 20 shows. Bellator is coming to Fox Sports Network in April. So there's gonna be there's a lot of really top-notch promotions that are going to be putting on a lot of shows. I love the competition, but it really leads you to think, is the MMA market getting too saturated?
Actually, I think it's a positive. It has positive and its negatives. I think it's good because we're going to see up-and-coming promotions like a Strikeforce. I think they're going to keep their neck pressed against UFC.
Yeah.
And UFC can't give those lackluster events.
And another thing Strikeforce is coming out with is a video game. They're aligning themselves with EA Sports. I don't know if you saw the previews for this thing yet, but it just looks phenomenal. The graphics on this are just completely amazing. UFC is also coming out with the second Undisputed.
Yeah.
Mixed martial arts is going to be in your video game systems, on your TV, everywhere, outside on the billboards.
They're hitting key demographics, and I think a lot of networks and pay-per-view venues are seeing UFC as a viable sport now, and I think if they continue to do that continue to do that through 2010, you're going to see really a big explosion in the mixed martial arts arena.
Absolutely. Well, I think that brings us to the end of our show. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. You know what? If you have any questions, if you have any topics you would like us to discuss, or if you have anybody you would like us to interview, let us know. We're all ears. We're open to suggestions, and we hope you tune back in next time.
Yeah. Next week we'll be here at the same place. Forrest Griffin, I was just joking. Please don't kill me.